All right. Take it easy. You don't have to keep applauding. Thank you. You people are too much. I want to say something tonight, something honest, which is rare for me because honesty is a dangerous tool. It's like giving a chainsaw to a toddler or a podcast microphone to a man with unresolved sibling resentment and a drawer full of receipts from diners in Pennsylvania. But I'm going to do it because I'm brave and because, frankly, the walls have been talking. So let's clear something up right now, once and for all. I am not a certified public accountant. No, no, hold your applause, please. That's enough. I know some of you are stunned. Some of you are saying, Kevin Brennananski, how could this be? You carry yourself with the confidence of a man who has yelled at a tax form for 45 minutes and learned nothing. Exactly. That's presence. But no, I am not a CPA. Never was. Never claimed to be except in tone, posture, and occasionally when cornered by drunks after shows. What I am is a washed up old comic with a head so crowded with grievances it ought to be rezoned commercial. That's what I am. Let's not kid ourselves. I'm not some financial wizard. I'm a guy who has spent most of his adult life trying to turn irritation into revenue. Sometimes it works. Mostly it becomes content. And I'll tell you something else. I am perpetually jealous of my more successful brother. There, I said it. You happy now? You got your confession. You dragged it out of me like a priest with a crowbar. Am I jealous? Of course I'm jealous. How could I not be? The man walks through life like doors were invented specifically for him to glide through them. Meanwhile, I'm over here counting parking receipts like they're rare manuscripts, trying to figure out if a muffin can be written off as morale. Some people get talent, some people get luck, some people get both, and some people get character. Character is what they give you when they don't have the decency to give you money. That's the truth. My whole life, I've had to watch the parade from the curb while some other idiot gets to sit on the float. And then people wonder why I'm bitter. Why am I bitter? Why is seawater wet? You ever spend 40 years developing a personality out of spite and timing? Only to discover the world prefers charm, ease, and not making everyone in the room feel like they're being audited by a disappointed uncle. That changes a man. That turns him. That makes him what I am now, a big dog in a small dog kennel. That's right. Yeah, you know what I mean. People say, hey, it's Kevin, that's not the saying. I know it's the saying. I coined it. It means you're trapped among lesser creatures, but still somehow cramped. It means your greatness is being stored inefficiently. It means your dominance has poor ventilation. That's me. A lot of people don't understand what it's like to be this aware of money, not rich, not good with money, not financially secure, just aware, painfully aware. I want to know what everyone around me is making at all times, not because I'm greedy, because I'm vigilant. There's a difference. I'm just curious, harmlessly curious, casually obsessed. I hear a guy got a new car, my ears perk up. Somebody mentions a refinance. I start doing calculations in my head. Somebody says they're going to Europe. Suddenly I'm wondering what kind of miles they used, what their per night was, whether this is family money, and what exactly they think they've done to deserve joy. That's not envy. That's bookkeeping of the soul. I need to know. I need to know how everyone in my orbit is doing monetarily compared to me so I can calibrate, so I can orient, so I can take the emotional temperature of the room and determine whether I am, in fact, still a major player in this collapsing strip mall of human value. That's healthy. That's called situational awareness. You think wolves don't compare salaries? They do. That's why they howl. Nothing. See? Dead. You don't know comedy. That was tremendous. But this is what nobody tells you about getting older in show business. It's not the rejection that kills you, it's the math. When you're young, failure is romantic. You're paying dues. You're finding your voice. You're building something. By the time you're old, failure has invoices. It has account balances. It has a checking app on your phone that opens like a threat. And every success story around you starts to sound personal. That's the humiliating part. A guy buys a house, somehow that's about me. A woman launches a podcast, an attack. A cousin invests early in something and wins, provocation. Some middle tier, nobody from the scene starts talking about multiple revenue streams. That's an act of war. And because if they're doing well, what does that say about me? A man starts asking himself questions, bad questions, questions like, how much is he getting for that? Who's backing her? Did that idiot really clear 6 figures? Is this before taxes? Gross or net? What kind of chairs do they have in that house? Why does my father's voice get louder in my head every time someone mentions passive income? You laugh, but these are not abstract concerns. This is the weather system I live in. Constant pressure, constant comparison, constant little mental abacus beads sliding back and forth every time a person within 50 feet of me orders an appetizer without looking at the price. That does something to a man. You start seeing the world differently, not as people, as ledgers. This one's doing all right. This one's overextended. This one's pretending. This one married correctly. This one got lucky. This one definitely has family money. This one says we should grab lunch because he can afford lunch. I notice these things. I have to. Because if I stop paying attention, then what am I? Just another old comic sitting in a dim room muttering about fairness and direct deposits? No, I'm a systems thinker. I'm a financial bloodhound, a human metal detector for hidden prosperity. Granted, sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'll look at a guy and think, that guy's broke. And then it turns out he owns 3 properties and a boat. Other times I think, this woman is crushing it and she's 6 months from converting grief into a newsletter. Nobody really knows. That's the cruelty of it. We're all out here performing solvency. That's all adulthood is now. Performing solvency while privately moving money around like nervous chess pieces and pretending not to care what everybody else is doing. But I care. Oh, I care. I care with an artistry, with the kind of deep, humiliating interest a man only develops after decades of being told he's brilliant by exactly the wrong number of people. And I know what you're thinking. Kevin Brennananski, if you know all this, if you're so self-aware, why don't you change? Because then what would I have left? That's the part people miss. The bitterness isn't incidental, it's structural, it's load bearing. You can't just remove it. That's like taking the rust out of a ship and expecting it to stay afloat. My bitterness is my ballast. My jealousy is my cardio. My resentment is the only retirement plan I've consistently contributed to. Without that, I'm just a guy in a blazer with bad lighting and a face that looks like it resents brunch. No, I need it. I need the comparisons. I need the suspicion. I need the quiet little investigations. I need to hear somebody say, he's doing really well, and feel my whole nervous system sit up like a Doberman hearing a drawer full of jerky open. That's life. That's vigilance. That's what separates men like me from the sleepwalkers. Other people can relax. I monitor. Other people trust. I estimate. Other people celebrate each other's wins. I say, interesting, in a tone that means I'm going to think about it for 4 weeks and maybe ruin a meal over it. That's not petty. That's premium awareness. You know, when I was younger, I thought the pain would make me great. Classic mistake. Pain doesn't make you great. It makes you specific. And I became very specific, specifically suspicious, specifically aggrieved, specifically attuned to the exact sound a person makes when they casually reveal they're more comfortable than I am. There's a tone, a looseness, a financial elasticity. I can hear it immediately. They'll say something simple like, yeah, we just got back from Napa. And to everybody else, that sounds like travel. To me, that sounds like escrow confidence. And suddenly I'm spiraling. What kind of room? How many nights? Did they upgrade? Did they pretend not to care about the upgrade? Who paid? What does he make? What does she make? What am I missing? What did they understand about life that I rejected out of pride, confusion, or a stubborn commitment to becoming a cautionary tale with excellent timing? That's where I live. That's my zip code. And yes, it drives me crazy. Of course it drives me crazy. Why do you think I'm here? Why do you think any of this exists? You think a stable man builds an identity out of half rants, old grievances, and financial curiosity? You think a well-adjusted person sits in a room waiting for applause that never comes? No, this is a museum of damage. This is what happens when a man spends too long believing the world is one good break away from finally admitting he was right all along. You begin to take every success personally and every failure historically. But I'll admit something else. Under all the bitterness, under all the jokes, under all the nickels and dimes and sideways questions about what everyone's making and whether they own or rent and if that watch is real, I think I just wanted to feel safe and important and ahead. I wanted to feel like I wasn't being quietly outpaced by people with softer voices and better instincts. I wanted to feel like all the years of clawing and sneering and, counting and comparing, amounted to something more than this permanent sense that everybody else got the map and I got the warning label. That's the nerve, I guess. Not that other people have money, not even that my brother did better. It's that I never stopped keeping score. And once you become a man who keeps score on everything, money, attention, status, whose joke hit harder, who got quoted, who got invited, who got paid, who didn't have to check the menu prices. You don't really live anymore. You tally. You just tally. And after enough years, the tally becomes your personality. Anyway, I'm not a CPA. I'm a washed up comic with just enough old man vanity to still think I'm the sharpest blade in a drawer full of spoons. That's my confession. That's the whole rotten sandwich. And if you see me asking a few too many questions about what someone paid for their kitchen renovation, or whether a certain gig was worth it, or how many subscribers a guy's actually converting, just know it's not nosiness. It's survival, emotional survival, class survival, kennel survival. Because in this world, you either stay curious or you wind up the tail that wags the doghouse. That's right. You understand. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Tough crowd. Good night. That was the joke, of course. Good night.